I believe that I consume an inappropriate amount of educational content, and it has definitely irreparably influenced my writing style and even the topics that I cover. And thus I shall erroneously label myself not as an expert in education per se, but an expert in educational content. I fucking blinked. What? In this video, it's going to sound like I'm criticizing two well-known online educators, but it's important for you to know that I'm not actually trying to disprove their authority. Instead, I want to observe this fact that teaching and doing are two separate skills. A great teacher is not necessarily a great performer. Gotham Chess is really fascinating to me because he's marketed as the world's biggest chess teacher, but most of his teaching really just happens on an online platform like Chessly or in books. Most of his YouTube content is focused almost exclusively around chess commentary, like a chess reaction channel. I don't believe I'm really contesting his mastery in the game of chess when I say something as benign as, I don't actually really think that Gotham Chess is that good of a chess teacher, because it has less to do with how Gotham Chess teaches chess as opposed to the thing he's teaching, which is chess. I believe that chess is not a game that is designed to be taught. Exerbia wrote it best when they wrote that chess is a lot like microdosing infinity. The language that we use to describe orientations or patterns on the board, or even prescribe predictable actions that we should, partake in, is very nebulous and gives way to a near infinity. It's not actually infinite, but it's so big, the number of orientations on the board is so big, that the only thing that can even get somewhat close to actually solving it calculably is a computer. Because of this inherent near infinity, it's impossible to teach chess in a way that orients it explicitly towards a win state. And so most chess education is really about trying to avoid the lose state. Our best and brightest chess computers are still only working from front to back. Sure, it's so much larger than a human, it's like 18 humans in one, but it's still working from front to back. It's taking a position and then exploring possibilities. Let's contrast that with something like a mathematical puzzle. I know it's subjective of me to say this, but I personally believe that math is a more holistic, internally consistent philosophy. A field like mathematics has this concept known as a proof that just can't exist in chess, because in chess, the proof of the solution is the win itself. Mathematical reasoning and chess reasoning are both teachable skills, but one is definitely more approachable than the other, because with one, like math, it's more like you're learning a language, but with something like chess, it's kind of like solving a problem that feels too big to solve. This, my dearest gentle listener, has guided me to one of my most confusing cases to date. What happens when the problems you're trying to solve actually involve the language that you're trying to learn? Mr. Rupp is the avatar of an online educator who reflects the real-life counterpart of a high school English teacher. I am of the firm belief that his content is so good that I'm actually starting to notice small, barely noticeable discrepancies between different videos of his. Hold on, let me show you one.
Is it weird that we want kids their senior year? We have this expectation that they should have it all figured out here. If they're going to make this big decision about how they're going to get themselves into thousands of dollars potentially of debt to go into education, kind of figure out what it is they want to do. But simultaneously, we can't give them the permission of their own 2 feet to use the bathroom.
This is an error in logic that we're just going to go ahead and call an appeal to common sense. The issue going on here is we put these two things next to each other and then we just say, doesn't this seem contradictory? The common factor between the person who has to choose to take on the college debt and the person who has to ask permission in order to go out in the hallway is the senior. We create a false equivalence if we then assume that everything that has to do with that student is equal.
Now, I'm not going to comment on this video because I already made a short about it. It's a very good video that just ends in a very peculiar way. Instead, I want you to take note of the rhetorical device that she used and the fact that he also has used it before. Let me show you that. He made a video talking about how we need to do away with middle school and introduce the concept of junior high. And just so you know that I'm operating in good faith, at the very least for this little discrepancy, I completely understand that this is an opinions-based video, and so it's not held to the same rhetorical standard as something that actually tries to make a viable claim. It's just an opinion and an observation that this person believes that we should do away with middle school and bring in junior high.
I've been teaching high school for almost 20 years, and it has never sat right with me that the students who are old enough to vote and join the military are in the same building as 13 and 14-year-olds. It's just unnecessary.
And here we have the same rough comparison making. There's this absurdist false dichotomy that's projected that 14-year-olds shouldn't be with, the potential war heroes. But once again, that argument isn't actually properly set up. And the clear commonality between those 4-year-olds and those 81-year-olds is that they're going to the same place, a high school. If anything, I would say that it's an appeal to an authority, that you're placing your opinion as a teacher as so high up, considering you also lampshade the logistical problems with, moving 9th grade down and cutting high school off at 10th grade. A whole bunch of buildings having a harder time communicating with each other is a problem. It just is. You can't just point it out and then be like, yeah, it's a problem, but let me wave my hand magically. Once again, just so you know that I'm not a hater, the actual internal feeling that I'm feeling right now is akin to when you're reading a book from your favorite author and you're like 200 pages in and you find a typo. It's like it does nothing to actually degrade the quality of the work, but it's just really fun to notice a little typo. You feel me? You get it. Don't even play. You get it. Come on. So there's actually two things that aren't held under rhetorical scrutiny. The first thing is opinions that are so subjective that you can just discard them as opinions. And the second thing is facts that are verifiably true. So you can discard criticizing them because they're verifiably true. There's a special problem that exists with verifiably true things, though, in that they exist in context, which means not only do you have to know the verifiably true thing, you also have to interpret that thing in the context that it comes from. In one video, Mr. Rupp will rightfully criticize someone for bringing up two different conversations in the same claim. But in another video, he himself will just bring up random bullshit. Let me show you.
We do not have kitty litter in our classroom for kids that identify as animals and therefore need to use the bathroom for whatever reason in the middle of class. What we do have is non-formaldehyde toilet chemical so students can go to the bathroom in buckets like these in case there's an active shooter and we're being held hostage.
Okay. No fucking reason to talk about school shootings. We're just being inflammatory for the hell of it. Mind you, this is something that I'm concerned about myself when I make what seems like really weird, inflammatory, out-of-nowhere comparisons. It's something that I wrote about in my Unus Annus video, where I compared Unus Annus to, live digital broadcasted suicide. In my video, it's a very inflammatory claim that is inherently subjective, or at the very least, definitely up to interpretation. And for Mr. Rupp, it serves him no rhetorical purpose to bring up, out of nowhere, school shooting and shitting in the room. There's a loose correlation, but it's like, who the fuck brought up, okay, so here's my best attempt at a somewhat grand thesis. The study of rhetoric is the study of the grammar of argument. The most fallacious of rhetorical devices are the ones that frame their claims. Framing of a claim without evidence is fallacious. And it's often that these claims are without evidence because they are themselves untestable, really unfalsifiable. It's very important that people learn how to dress down bad ideas or bad arguments that are disguised well with insidious rhetorical devices. Mr. Rupp's ability to disprove the claims asserted with each video he's reacting to is inconsistent from video to video. Sometimes he gets around to doing it, but sometimes he just doesn't. There's just an observation that a rhetorical device is used, and then that's it. Other times, he actually just dips into straight-up opinion himself. Most of my observed problems with Mr. Rupp are actually burgeoning onto a really big theme across this channel, from Unus Annus to CJ the X to Mr. Rupp. I believe that we're living in unprecedented times. I believe that this is the first time in human history where we have experienced a culture of writing where the written word is being experienced not by a small audience or by a big or broad audience, but by an ever-changing audience. The lifetime of a written work in the past used to be really long, with the audience for that work slowly but surely morphing, maybe with the shape of a generation, or maybe with the shape of many generations. But the turnover rate for audiences now, in the age of social media, is, I want to say, the speed of light, literally. So there's this very big risk in which people who are not a part of your intended audience just spontaneously combust into existence and then start bean soupifying your content. Bean soupifying is in reference to when a lady made a high iron bean soup video and then someone commented, "Oh, I don't like beans." If you don't like beans, don't make the fucking soup. And also don't leave a comment because this video isn't for you. You're not the intended audience. So it's 1 a.m. I've been working on this video for about 5 hours now. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed after I'm done recording this. But I think I have to end this video with the one and only video that I can confidently say I have an explicit distaste for from Mr. Rupp. Let me show you that video.
Please dumb this down so the rest of us can understand. No. Welcome to false consensus, where in an age of anti-intellectualism, we should probably talk about the root causes. False consensus is hard for a guy with a lisp to say, but it's also where people falsely assume that other people share in their belief, and it's more widespread than it actually is.
I know it's a bit pedantic of me, but the first observation I have has to do with the rhetorical observation he made, specifically hinging around the one pronoun, us. In English, us can exist in two states, us inclusive and us exclusive. He makes this implication that us is including his intended audience. But when I read that sentence, I thought of it as exclusive, us as in us viewers. Like there were two people hovering over the phone watching that video. Quite literally, there was a community of people watching the video. You know what I mean?
I've been teaching high school for 20 years, and the way that I present information, no matter how hard I wanted to shift it, is designed for teenagers who just got their driver's licenses. You can handle it.
For all intents and purposes, the video could have ended there, but for some reason it keeps going with this really weird, malicious energy. There's this inherent assumption that the person requesting a simplification is demanding a simplification and finding fault with the writer if they can't find one. But those are just assumptions, conclusions that can't be drawn from a simple request.
It's the same thing I tell my students. Learning isn't easy and learning is embarrassing. You have to diminish your ego and recognize that you don't know everything, and not everybody's really comfortable with that.
That's where the implicit malicious assumption is made explicit. The writer somehow now has an ego, even though they're very clearly asking for something to be dumbed down. How can I possibly believe that you're operating in good faith if you're somehow assuming that someone has an ego about how they're smart because they're asking for something to be dumbed down? I don't think people who think that they're smart would ask. They would just go on with the wrong information and make accusations or commit logical errors. You feel me? Like, one wouldn't think that someone with an ego would request clarification. That doesn't make sense. Like, what?
But the idea that it should be simplified, and therefore the act of you not learning is somebody else's fault because it's not presented to you in the way that you like it.
There's an insidious use of the word fault that implies blame, when, if anything, a presenter has a responsibility to the ideas that they're communicating, that they communicate those ideas effectively, and that what they're communicating is verifiably true. A request for simplification or clarification should be nowhere near any type of perceived overreach. If you don't want to bear the responsibility of communicating to an audience that you don't want, then don't talk to that audience. Just don't. And especially don't waste time chewing them out over what, and I'm going to say this as an opinion, I believe is a seemingly reasonable request.
All creators of rhetoric have a purpose, and the only way they're going to achieve that purpose is if they appeal to the values, needs, and beliefs of an audience. But the thing that gets twisted in social media is the idea that just because the audience could be everybody, that everybody is always going to be the intended audience.
And this is where we come somewhat full circle back to my thesis. I don't believe that the potential audience is everybody. I believe that the audience itself could be anybody. It feels like a small semantic shift, but what it prepares you for is the ability for the things that you write to be flexible and more open-ended. I believe that writing that isn't built to be clarified or rewritten in some way will fall to the wayside. Unsurprisingly, social media is social, so it's designed for interaction and it's designed for dialogue. And so it seems kind of obvious to me that a writer that isn't prepared to have a dialogue about what they write on social media and be social is just setting themselves up for failure.
The request to dumb it down is definitionally insulting to an audience.
One claim that comes out of nowhere that isn't clarified.
The limit of your understanding is not the limit of understanding.
And a second claim that also comes out of nowhere and isn't clarified, which is also really funny because there's a statement made about willingness.
Especially when the barrier there is your own willingness, but
that person was willing to request clarification. They were literally willing to ask for clarification. So what the fuck are you talking about? What other willingness is there to just sit down, shut up, and listen? Girl, suck my clit.
But thanks for watching my videos. Have a good day.
The use of polite language to capstone this unreasonable accusation of malicious ignorance or like malicious incompetence doesn't make your accusation any less unreasonable. In the same sense that using polite language around an insult doesn't make it any less insulting. Trust me when I say I'm not busting your balls for no reason. I'm just speaking from personal experience. Lord knows I was speaking like this too when, I was your age. Thank you so much for watching this video. Check in with me tomorrow morning or tomorrow evening, where I will either finally be talking about that 17 square packing problem, or I'll be making another sick beat with Lawrence, probably. I need to go to bed. I think it's almost 2 in the morning. Oh my god, it's almost 2 in the morning.